we have order of H divides order of G. Now the proof is very simple. If we use the theorem just now we have proved. First we prove this result. That suppose I take two right cosets H and HE. Then we will show that subgroup H and the right coset HA, they have the same number of elements. And to prove this, we take one map F from H to HA. We define this way: FH is equal to HA for element H belonging to H. Now what we can say about this map? This map is 1, 1. Because if FH1 is equal to FH2 for H1 and H2 both belonging to H, then this implies H1A is equal to H2A, and by cancellation law what we get is H1 is equal to H2. So this mapping is 1, 1. Now we prove that this mapping is onto also. Let H0A be any element belonging to HA. Then this H0 belongs to H, and what we get is FH0 is equal to H0A. So it is onto also. So F is a map from HA to H, right coset HA, it is 1, 1 and onto. H is a finite set, and that implies HA is also finite set, and they have the same number of elements. So if we assume that order of number of elements in H is K, then each right coset HA also contains K elements. Alright. Now we use our first theorem, that the family of right coset gives the partition of G. Now G is a finite group, and so the number of right coset family will also be a finite. Suppose there are m elements, m distinct right coset. That means I can express in this way: HA1 union HA2 union HAM, where A1, A2 and AM are elements of the group G. And these are all distinct, and so they are all pairwise disjoint. And so G can be expressed as a union of finite pairwise disjoint M sets. Each set contains K elements, and so counting elements on both the sides, what we get is OG is equal to M into K. And that implies M being an integer. This implies K divides OG, or order of H divides OG. Now what is this M here? This M denotes the number of distinct right cosets here. And this leads to one definition, that suppose H is a subgroup of G. Then the number of distinct right cosets of H in G is called the index of H in G, and we denote it by notation IGH. And now if our group is finite, then by Lagrange's theorem what we can say is that index of the subgroup H is equal to here M, and what is our M? OG upon OH. Alright. So this is our Lagrange's theorem, and now we want to study some of its important application. Before we study applications of Lagrange's theorem, we have one notion. Just now we defined order of the group. Now we define, this is order of an element. Definition: let A be any element belonging to G, group G. No, it's okay. A is, order of A is said to be n, if n is the smallest integer such that a raised to n is equal to 8. If there is no such integer n, then we say that order of A is 0 or 1, 0 or infinity. And notation for this is order of A. Now the first question comes here is how to find out the order of an element. And for that, what we do here is we take the sequence a square, a cube, a raised to n, l, and continue. If a raised to m is the first term here in this sequence for which a raised to m equal to e, then m becomes the smallest integer for which a raised to m equal to e, and that is why that by definition order of A becomes equal to B. If there is no such integer here, this is then order of A is equal to 0 or infinity. Again, let us take this group. G is equal to 1, minus 1, I, and minus I under multiplication. And let us take the element A is equal to I. Then what we get is here series. I square is equal to minus 1, I cube is equal to minus I raised to 4 is equal to 1, and then again I minus 1, and so and so. And what we can say here is this is I raised to 4, and 4 is the smallest integer for which I raised to 4 equal to 1, the identity of this group, and that implies that order of I is equal to 4. But if we take this group, set of integers under addition, and let us take any integer m different from 0. Let us take any integer k different from 0. And now we take the powers, then k square means here 2k, 3k, 4k, and so and so. That means, k is an integer different from 0, and so we will never get 0 on this sequence, and that implies that order of k is 0 or infinity. Now we state some of the important applications of Lagrange's theorem. The first is this. We assume that null G is a finite group. For element A belonging to G, what we get is order of A divides order of G. The proof is very simple here. What we do here is we take the cyclic subgroup generated by A, and we take k is equal to E A up to A raised to k minus 1, A raised to m minus 1, and where A raised to m equal to E, and order of A is equal to m. First thing, it is very obvious that k is contained in H. Second thing what we can prove is that let us take any element C belonging to H. Then C will be of the form A raised to n for some integer n. Now by division algorithm, we have two integers n and m, and so I can find out integer q and r such that n is equal to qm plus r, 0 less than r less than or equal to m minus 1. This implies A raised to n is equal to A raised to qm, I am writing directly, into A raised to r. Or this is same thing as A raised to m raised to q into A raised to r, and that is equal to A raised to r, because A raised to m equal to E, and so this is also is equal to E. What is r? R is any integer lying between 0 and n minus 1, and that implies our element C equal to a raised to n belongs to K, and that implies this is contained in K. And so this implies that we have H is equal to K. Still one thing remains, and that all the elements here are distinct. And I leave this as an exercise to students that prove that all the elements E, A raised to m minus 1 are distinct, and that implies H is equal to K, and so order of H is equal to order of K, all of this is, and that is equal to m. And so by Lagrange's theorem, all of this is, what we get is order of A divides, because what is your m? M is also is equal to this, order of A divides order of G. Now order of A divides order of G, and that gives you that I can write down order of G is equal to some integer NA into OA. That this integer NA depends upon the element A. And that implies A raised to OG is equal to A raised to N1 into OA equal to A raised to OA raised to N1, and this is equal to, we can prove equal to identity element. That means what we prove is on the result that for each element A belonging to G, A raised to OG is equal to, that means there is one common integer OG such that A raised to OG equal to E for every element A belonging to G. Alright. Another result which we can derive from here is that suppose G, order of the group G is P prime, and suppose A is an element different from E. What we get then here? That order of A divides order of G, that is equal to P, the prime. And this implies we have only two alternatives for OA. One is OA is equal to 1 or OA is equal to P. Since A is not equal to E, this is not possible, and that implies order of A is equal to order of P, and that comes out nothing but is equal to order of G. That means the A, alright, order of A and order of the group G both are equal, and we can prove now here that G comes out equal to, alright, E A up to A raised to P minus 1, and A raised to P is equal to A. That means our group becomes a cyclic group generated by A. A is only not generator, but this says something more also, that instead of this A I take any other element, I can prove that alright, the G is nothing but equal to the cyclic group generated by that element. So here every element A different from E becomes a generator. Alright. Now we give two theorems without proofs here. One is Euler's theorem. Suppose A and N are relatively prime integers, then A raised to phi n is congruent to 1 mod n. Here this phi is Euler's phi function, and we define in this way that it is a mapping from n to n. We define this way: phi 1 is equal to 1, phi 2 also is equal to 1, and for n greater than or equal to 2, phi n equal to number of integers less than n and relatively prime to n. For example, if I take n equal to 8, then number of integers which are less than 8 and relatively prime to 8 are 1, 3, 5 and 7, and that gives you that phi 8 is equal to 7. This function is very important, and just I mentioned one property only, and that property, right, it is known as multiplicative property, and it is this, that if m and n are relatively prime integers, then phi mn is equal to phi m into phi n. This is Euler's theorem. From Euler's theorem, we can derive Fermat's little theorem. If P is prime, then for any integer a belonging to n, a raised to p is congruent to a mod p. Alright, this theorem we can derive immediately from Euler's theorem, because alright, p being a prime, alright, this is, here we take n equal to p, then phi p is equal to p minus 1, and we get the result immediately. So these are some applications of Lagrange's theorem. And now, as I told you in the beginning, with the help of Lagrange's theorem, we can have a classification of groups of order 4 and 6. So first case we take that order of the group G is 4, and we take one element A different from E. Then order of A divides 4, and since A is different from E, this implies the only possibility we have, OA is equal to 2 or 4. Let us say